Hi, I'm Chef Allison, and I help busy parents and caregivers get weeknight meals on the table with less stress. So, I want to talk a little bit how I came to this and also invite you to watch a webinar that I put together that will go through the steps. I've identified 4 different compartments that lead to most of our stress in delivering on weeknight meals. And I have ideas and different systems than you might have seen before to make each of those components a little bit less stressful. So, to take you back a few steps, I started on this journey as a personal chef where I used to go into people's homes and I would cook for their families. During that process, I got to meet tons of kids of all ages and their parents and see exactly what they were struggling with. If I made snap peas for the family, which kids ate them, which kids didn't? Did I leave some aside that were raw versus cooking some with garlic and butter to make them, more appealing to other kids? And doing that for almost 17 years gave me a really interesting opportunity to cook for more kids than most people will ever get to cook for in their lifetime. But that's not actually what I set out to do. I set out as a chef to, certainly help people around eating at home, but also more recently in reducing food waste. So I have a meal planning program that helps people decide what's for dinner and reduce food waste. And what's very interesting is even though people use it all the time and people stick with it, when people cancel, I have them fill out a little survey. And what I've been noticing the last 3 years or so is that the number one reason for canceling is that the recipes looked nice, but my kids just won't eat that. That blew my mind, to be honest. These were what I considered family style weeknight meals, vegetable curry over couscous or pork meatballs and rice noodles, 3-bean chili with biscuits and a side of roasted broccoli. Now, I will say I have a 7-year old, a new 7-year old, and a 4-year old who definitely don't eat those meals. They're super regular. They will not just tuck in. That my kids are certainly not little gourmets blowing your mind with what they eat. But I would still make these meals because it was like second nature for me to separate things out and put their plates together in a way that I knew they would eat it. So I'm still cooking what I think are great meals because that's what I want my kids to learn to eat and see is normal. This is how we eat dinner in my family. So I just was doing that and assumed everybody else was doing that as well. But as more people were giving me this feedback that they would make a delicious meal like a 3-bean chili and then feel really frustrated because they would sit down and their kids say, "Oh, I'm not eating this, go make me something else." And then as a parent you feel this pressure. Well, I don't want them to wake up in the middle of the night because they're hungry. I don't want to stunt their growth because I'm not offering them the right foods. And then you also worry, are they getting enough vegetables? Am I doing this right? Am I setting them up to have a good relationship to food later in life? Are they dessert obsessed? Are they going to have body issues and things that we want to help them, build a strong foundation for now so that we can feel confident they'll grow into that later? So, in response to what most of my customers were telling me, that food waste comes second, and sure, you don't want to waste food or waste money for so many different reasons, but the top priority was really screaming in your face. It was confronting you with a struggle to get dinner on the table. So I've been making a lot more content. I put together a digital course that you can go through. It's 7 weeks. It's pretty awesome. But before you even get to that point, I invite you to join my webinar. You can watch it on your own. It's pre-recorded, so you can, go through at a time that's convenient to you, but you RSVP through the link that is below. And that's just kind of the basics. That starts with, okay, here are the 4 categories I found, and we're going to systematically break each one down, and I will give you tips on stressing less in each of those areas. But here's the really key thing. As I've been sharing this with people and posting it all over the internet, business coaches and people who have listened to it have really pushed back and said, what's different about this? There are, endless bits of information on the internet. Why should I listen to yours? What is the transformation you're offering and why is this unique? So I thought about that a lot and I was finally able to distill this down and think about it this way. I'm not a nutritionist. I want to help you with your kids' picky eating, but I'm not going to tell you where to find calcium versus, vitamin D or how to measure protein. I don't think you need to do that unless your doctor has told you that you do, and then they'll give you that information. If you need a nutritionist, definitely get a nutritionist, and then you can come back and I can help you execute on the specific plan that they gave you. But that's not what this is. That's not the main thing of who that's for. This is also not a, specific like kid-centric course or, package of information that I've been putting out. What this really is about you. So I want to help the main dinner maker, who is the one that I've heard called the nutritional gatekeeper. Who's the one writing the grocery lists? Is that you? Are you by yourself doing that for your whole family? Who's doing the mental labor of deciding what's for dinner, which is so stressful, going grocery shopping, and then executing on dinner every night? This package of solutions, starting with the webinar and then moving into the course or other free videos that I'm putting up on YouTube a lot recently, this is about helping you manage that process with less stress, partially because I talk a lot about making the other members of your house, because unless there's some huge other, power balance, this is a big, big part of keeping your house functioning. And even if you're the leader of the responsibility, I don't think you should be doing this entirely by yourself. It's also great for your kids to help in this process and see how much work it is. And also, if they're complaining about foods or currently picky eaters, getting them involved at this point is a great way to start reshaping how they think about what's served for dinner and why that particular dish is served. And also how they can get involved if they want to influence it and have something else available. So the epiphany that I sort of had is, if you've ever gone to a therapist or, listened to any of that sort of healing talk, even just mindset talk, it even works in the workplace. It doesn't have to be specifically with a therapist, but like if you get in an argument with somebody, what do they always say, right? You cannot control how other people react to you. You cannot control how other people behave, how they show up, or how they feel about things. You can't change somebody else's emotions. The only thing you can change in any given situation that you have direct control over every time is you. How are you showing up to the situation? What are your expectations and how are you handling them when they're not met? What are you doing next time to change your expectations or change the situation that you have control over so that it can be different? So that's what this course is about. You cannot, if your kids are picky eaters and they don't eat marinara sauce, you cannot force them to do it. You can only change how you decide that dinner is served, how you present it. And it's not to say not eating marinara, but how are you going to present it, show up and talk about it so that they understand this is what's for dinner. Here are your options. And then sort of behind the scenes, like a puppet master, you're making sure that they have options that will work for them. So you can still say at the same time, this is pasta with marinara. This is what we're having for dinner. Oh, you don't eat marinara? That's okay, because here is your plate. One of the options is pasta with marinara, but here are the other options. So they will always be presented with a full meal. So you know that they're getting enough nutrition, you know that they're going to sleep through the night, but you can also kind of have this cool, calm, and collected front where it's like, this is the one meal that I made. Here's what's for dinner. If you want to have a say in what's for dinner, I will be deciding on next week's meal plan and grocery list on X date. I welcome you, in fact, encourage you to join me, and then your concerns can be heard. But if you're not going to participate in that process, then when dinner is served, this is what you'll be eating. So you change your expectations, you change how you feel about things, and you can manage your own stress levels and emotions. And everybody else will start to have to adapt to that or not. They can still complain about it, but I will give you the tools and the resources to change you. So you can't take an online course that's going to change your kids. You can't take one that's going to change your husband. They are going to do what they're going to do. The only one that you have complete control over is you. So my course and webinar, which you should watch first, it's free, it's great, is about stressing less. It's called Stress Less Family Meals, but it's about reducing the way you feel stressed out when you show up to deal with weeknight dinners. And maybe you're not even the main cook, but there's still stuff in here about, dealing with your family's norms around food, what to do if you're going to bail on your meal plan, how to go grocery shopping in a more systematic way that takes less time and costs less money. So that's what I want to be teaching you about. How can you manage you to do things differently and make this just endless mundane chore something that's a little more enjoyable? I think I relate to this a lot as a mom, as somebody who manages a lot of my household as well. It's really easy to put yourself last, and we're not doing that anymore. We're not last. We're at least equal to everybody else, but we deserve to have our needs met and our voices heard and our feelings heard. You have a seat at that table. It's your table. You bought that table. You don't just have to be last. And it's hard for me when I hear all of these, it's not just women. It definitely is some men too, but it's a lot of women and a lot of moms, people who identify as moms, however you want to think about that. There's room for you here. But if you're the one who is constantly carrying this invisible burden of feeding your family, making sure their nutrition is right, it's a lot. But you also get to count. And if you're a working mom or a stay-at-home mom, when you show up for dinner, to make dinner at 5 p.m. or to sit down at the table at whatever time you do, that's also your free time, right? Like, you should be able to enjoy these moments with your family because they're fleeting. And, even if they seem like the days are short and the years are long or whatever it is they say, this time is now. You don't get it back. So how can we execute family meals with less stress all around, from the moment that everybody hates and has been telling me for years of deciding what's for dinner that is so stressful and constantly this burden on your shoulder, to grocery shopping, to bringing food home, to storing food, to rotating, to reducing food waste, to knowing what's in your fridge, to having a back pocket plan if you're going to bail on your main plan, how to talk to your kids about food, how to get your family to help. How can we get this whole thing rolling without being such a burden on you? I think of so many chores that I hate. Doing the laundry. I hate not just doing the laundry, but I specifically hate folding clothes and putting them away. And I don't have to do that every day. In fact, there's a bucket of clothes over there. They're clean and they're folded, and I just am dreading putting them away. I could ignore that probably for another week if I wanted to. But feeding your family is a chore that you can't ignore. You have to be faced with it multiple times every single day. And really, until your kids are old enough to fend for themselves, you can't opt out of this one. So if you're in it, if you're stuck doing it, it's worth it to you to take some time and figure out new systems that will cause you less stress and frustration to get your house functioning on a different level. And I'm coming at this really from, again, not a nutritional standpoint, but really a tactical in the kitchen standpoint. And then also tactically feeding your kids. How are we going to set them up? How do we literally set their plates up? How do you literally set parts of the meal aside as you're cooking it to make one meal that everybody will eat and not complain about, so that you can show up to the table, actually enjoy it, and feel less stress about your family meals. So if you're still listening to that, if you want to learn more, start with my free webinar. And if you still want to go deeper after that and break things down piece by piece, you'll see information there about the course. But definitely register for the webinar. You'll join my mailing list. I try to send out lots of interesting emails. And that is recorded, but you'll see in the notes, there's, or in the sidebar, there's a call for questions. They come right to my inbox, and I'll answer each one. So I would truly love to hear from you and what questions you have, because it helps me make better videos so that I know there's somebody on the receiving end of this and not just me yapping away. So on that note, I will stop yapping. I hope to see you in the webinar, and let me know if you have any questions.